Hi everyone, my name is Luke Diamond. I'm a zero-time Grammy-nominated producer, and today we're going to be talking about creative ways to use distortion. In today's video, we're going to kind of flip the idea of distortion on its head because it's not just a tool for grit and aggression, but if used correctly, you can also use it to sound musical and smooth, and most importantly, vibey. That word is just so fucking cool. Distortion is known for adding aggression and grit, and it's a great tool for that, but it also can be used in a very musical way, just to add color, and the possibilities are absolutely endless, and I encourage you to just try messing with distortion to get some cool results on different sources and in different applications. It's time to be more adventurous, and your significant other will thank me later. Giggity. So without any more yapping, we're gonna jump into Pro Tools. You can do this in any DAW, and I'm gonna discuss 5 ways that I use distortion creatively. And listen, these are probably intermediate to entering the pro level techniques here, but if you are absolutely a master of your craft, I think you should watch this anyways because it's gonna remind you to do cool shit with distortion. Plus, you're watching this video anyways, so maybe you wanted to learn something. Let's dive in. All right, so now that we're in the DAW, let's talk some distortion techniques. The first one I want to mention is parallel vocal distortion. This is great because it's going to add an edge to your vocal without losing that clarity or that like sense of soothness or like prettiness, I guess you could say. So we're going to be working with a song that I mixed for my friend Julia Bedoni. It's called On Your Own. You should go listen to the song. It's great. But yeah, we're going to be working with those vocals. So this is the dry vocal.
Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent. Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent when you were.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and add Distinct Pro to this vocal because this is a kind of an all-in-one plugin. You can use this on anything. It sounds really, really good. And you have a lot of parameters to adjust here. So first and foremost, I absolutely drove the distortion all the way up. We're working in parallel, so I'll show that in a second. Added some saturation. And then the cool thing about this drive section is you have like drive adjustments for your individual like frequency ranges. And for a vocal, obviously mid frequency and high frequency is probably going to be the most important. But you know, use it to your heart's content. So we also have transient controls over here. I just left that as is. A compressor, really awesome. Your distortion curve from softer to more aggressive. You have some dynamics settings here and then a behavior setting. And then what I did was I found a sound I really liked and then I dialed back the mix. So this is where like the parallel comes in, right? Some people will do this on a send and just have it blend with the send knob or the send fader. But for me personally, I really, really like using the mix situation in here because there is a drive mix and a dynamic mix, and you can actually link those together, which is really cool because I want them to behave together. So this is what I came up with. We're going to overdo it and then dial it back.
Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent. Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent when you were.
So I might even still be using a little bit too much and I could probably dial this back a little bit, but I absolutely love this technique. To me, it always adds a really cool edge, and you can use this technique and even adjust your distortion curve to kind of find a flavor that you like, because you could add this to a vocal that's soothing and clear and supposed to be pretty, and it just adds this really cool dimension to it that quite frankly just sounds awesome in a mix and can kind of help you step away from just having like a boring, bland vocal chain, I guess, in your mix. All right, and this next technique kind of goes hand in hand with this one. A lot of people probably know about this one, but we call them dirty delays or dirty echoes, and I'm talking about distorting your delay sense. It's quite literally an instant vibe. All right, and so for my dirty delays, one thing I really like to do is, of course, make a send to a delay, low pass and high pass it, boost those mids a little bit maybe, use it to your heart's content, and however just works best for you. I like the telephony effect, and then add distinct on that, and then adjust the send.
Again. Tell me about the time you spent when you were. Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent. Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent when you were.
So of course you'll just adjust this and mix it however makes the most sense for your application. I love doing this and then doing a little bit of compression afterwards. You can do that on the chain, or you can actually do it within Distinct Pro. Compressing it afterwards is going to bring it forward. That mixed with a little bit of bite that it just has a really cool stylistic effect. And then you can of course do the same thing for slap delays and things like that. Doesn't need to be like a quarter note delay. I love doing it with slap delay.
Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent. Maybe we'll meet again. Tell me about the time you spent when you were.
Very cool. You guys might be wondering, what's with the harsh cut and Luke wearing different clothes? And it's not because I forgot to hit record on the second half of the video and I'm doing it the next day. It's not because of that. But anyways, let's move on to the next distortion method that I like to use a lot. Let's call this one drum trash. It's going to help you bring life to your drums, bring some color, bring some of that meaty flavor if you like flavorful meats. So let's dive in. So these are my raw drums. First thing we're going to do is stick Distinct Pro right up on there and crank it. I really like doing this and just driving it maybe a little bit too far and then backing it up to whereas it doesn't sound so like obvious grit. Just give it some meat, give it some life, give it some color. And then because I'm using Distinct Pro, I push some of the highs here to bring some of those overheads back, you know, to their shining glory, and then also push some of the mids for the snare punch and things like that. And then we hit it with the compressor because this compressor is awesome. I just crank the knob. I don't even mess with the settings down here and it just sounds great. So here's a before. And we'll turn it on. Also, I think I started with the aggressive drum bus factory preset in here, so definitely check that out if you haven't. Also, sorry if I'm very mumbly. I just got a crown in my tooth. If you've never had a crown in your tooth, it sucks. Anyways, moving on. And now we're going to take kind of the same technique and send it to a drum room reverb and do the same thing. Wow. Now, of course, I just used a reverb to get kind of a room tone using a room reverb. But if you have the opportunity to actually get a room signal with actual microphones and record it in and then add distortion to it, it sounds absolutely incredible. So I definitely think you should check it out. So distorting our drums and our drum room reverb took us from this to this. All right, and moving on to method number 4, we are going to get bass that cuts without sounding too harsh. And I'm talking about bass guitar. And now this is a DI bass processed with a amp sim, but I wanted to add a little bit more, or I want to add a little bit more texture to it that just gives it more life. And this is something that I love to do in tandem or even replace compression. So check this out. So this is the DI bass. Now let's add some saturation and some distortion, and then some of those drive section bands here. So that's on, off, on, And of course, we hit it with the compressor. Never would I have ever thought that using distortion on this bass would have actually cleaned it up. But because I was able to drive the different bands and find the sound that I liked and distort some of those really, really harsh pieces just to kind of flatten them out, it sounds really good. And then adding a little bit of saturation just adds character. This is a really good way to breathe life into DI bass. And as a side note, I'm doing this after the amp simulation. It's really fun to do it before the amp simulation. Mine's already flattened, but I think you should try it. It's a lot of fun. I really love how this sounds on bass. This is probably my favorite application for Distinct Pro besides drums. All right, and moving on to method number 5, distorted reverb returns. Now, this is something that I do on almost every vocal that I've probably ever mixed, whether it be a super beautiful vocal or something that's gritty and aggressive. There's always a place for this. It's just, at different levels and things like that. So I was going to show it on vocals, but I said, you know what? Why don't we shake it up and do this on guitar just to kind of show different applications of it. So firstly, I have this DI guitar. It's straight up DI. It doesn't even have an amp sim on it. So we're going to help it out a little bit using Distinct V2, which is like the little brother version of Distinct Pro. I'm going to dial the distortion back and the saturation so you can hear the difference. And now we're going to send it to the Audioscape XL305R Spring Reverb plugin. I love this plugin. I wish I got to try the actual unit, but I've been so impressed with this that this has been in my workflow a lot. Now let's add Distinct Pro. Squash it. This has such a cool effect. I love the way that a distorted spring reverb sounds, but this is not exclusive to like short, springy style reverbs. I use this on like really long decay, big reverbs as well, on vocals, strings, just anything. Just try it. Go crazy with this, and I think you guys will find that there's some really cool things that you can do with distorted reverb effects. For the sake of the length of the video, I'm going to stop at the 5 methods, but if you guys have any more, make sure you leave them down below. And yeah, maybe we'll revisit this. I love these videos. I only talked about 5 creative ways that I use distortion in this video, so by all means, if you guys have some techniques that you want to share, let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll make a follow-up video where we try the stuff that you guys suggest. As usual, thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you in the next video. If this helped at all, just make sure you drop a like and subscribe, and check out the Kiive plugins at kiiveaudio.com. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys next time.